But the media has got people going crazy over this CV. And I mean, you go like stores where people are stockpiling and fighting and arguing, like fist fighting over toilet paper, sanitizer. Like it's crazy. It is crazy. It is the media doing all of this to people, and I just can't believe this is the world we live in. All right, and you know what? It's only gonna go two ways. Either this is an all pass, and everyone will forget about it, or we're all gonna die. In that case, my body is ready. Okay? Take my soul, baby Jesus. I only have two requests. Number one, do not go on Google and look up my search history. Don't do that. I want people to remember me the way I am. And number two, bury me with all my tools. Why? Because I'm sure in heaven there's gonna be some people driving some broke ass cars that need fixing. Hashtag never stop making money. I'm in a Impala, just got dropped off. Owner wants to put two front wheel bearings on it and front pads and rotors. She's like, yeah, the noise is horrible. It's just, you know, people hear me coming down the street. So I'm like, oh, this is gonna be bad. I get in the car and honestly, it's not that bad. I would even dare to say that I don't think there's an issue with these wheel bearings. Sounds like there's an issue with the brakes. Wheel bearings, no. But I mean, she bought all the parts. She bought them online. She wants to get them done. Ask and you shall receive. Well, let's take the car back to the garage and have a closer look at it. Alright, so the owner told me that this Impala just got painted, so it has a fresh coat of paint on it. I'm not sure where it got painted at, but the interior doesn't look that great. The car doesn't drive that great. I don't know if I would have put the money into painting this car. Look at all the hubcaps. They're held on with zip ties. You know, same thing back here. I could see overspray. I don't know. Car actually needs work to make it drive nice, and you know, this is where people spend their money on. I guess priorities, right? Who am I to talk crap? I would so paint my CRX, and I do plan on doing it, and I'm sure other people would say it's a waste of money. So I guess to each their own, huh? Got a cracked windshield right there, small crack. Cluster does not work. The car is running right now. Alright, so here's the two new wheel bearings. We got front rotors, front pads. But why is this stuff wet? See this? Look at this. Wow. And she did mention to me that she's having an issue with water getting inside the car. Wow, okay. Let's move on. It also has a bad starter because turned off. After the car starts, you could hear it grinding, like something's wrong with the Bendix or I don't know. Let's see if we could hear it. You hear that? And the driver outside door handle only works if you pull on it really hard. Other than that, it doesn't want to open the door. Alright, so this thing's got an aftermarket alarm, and this thing is super loud and annoying. You do any little thing to the car and it sets the alarm off. So I just jacked the car up, you know, checking the wheels. First thing you see on the passenger side. Alright, so I think it's a tie rod. I gotta look at it more closely, but this is definitely loose over here. I gotta see what I'm gonna do about this alarm. Maybe try leaving the driver door open so it doesn't keep activating every 10 seconds. Don't get to do this often. Cutting the zip ties for a hubcap off. It's much harder than it looks. I'm not going to be able to show you guys with one hand, but basically it's the inner tie rod that has all that play. So I really doubt I'm going to be doing that today. I'm just going to go ahead and knock out the brakes and the front wheel bearings and hopefully get her to come back to get the rest of it fixed some other day. One thing I noticed is the rotors look halfway decent. The pads look like they have plenty. That looks like a brand new pad down there. I see like little like metal flakes everywhere. I think this stuff was recently changed due to a no friction material left on a brake pad issue. But she wants all of it changed again. So I don't know. And honestly, it doesn't really sound like bad wheel bearings to me. And lower control arm bushing is pretty much torn. Yeah, honestly, I mean, if money had to go somewhere in this car, I would not have put it in a paint job. The car needs mechanical work done to it, obviously. Even though someone was recently in here to do the brakes, they did a crappy job because this pin was horrible to get out. It was just seized in there like you wouldn't believe. So it took a lot of time to get this one out. You know, it should not be like that if everything looks fairly new and someone was just in here. And look, so it's a replacement or junkyard part, it looks like. Yeah, North Lake Auto Repair, Hammond, Indiana. It's like, are you that much in a rush? You can't even just cut the zip tie off? I hate seeing stupid crap like that. Alright, so just moving along here. And you know, to get to the bolts for the back of the wheel bearing, the axle's in the way. So I like to put this tool on here, and it just keeps pressure on the axle. Not a lot of pressure, you know, just keep pushing it until it stops, and then, you know, don't force it. You don't want to go crazy with it. Not to be confused with getting jiggy with it. I got those bolts from the back of the wheel bearing out. They came out pretty easy. Got my tool on this wheel bearing. Let's see if it comes out or if it puts up a fight. And there you go. As you can see, it's out already, or it's separated. Alright, so there isn't much else to see here. Just gonna go ahead change everything. If I run into anything special, I'll let you guys know. But other than that, I'm gonna get this done and then go repeat the same exact thing on the driver's side of the car. Alright, so as you can see, I'm almost done with the right side here. Got the wheel bearing on, obviously, the pads and the rotors. I cleaned out the bores right here where the slide pin goes, so everything now moves freely how it should. Everything's greased up. Put some grease right here and on the back side of these two tabs. Now the wheel bearing that came off, I did spin it, and it does, yeah, I could see it being bad. I'm not going to even bother letting you guys listen because I don't have a tripod here and it's almost impossible. You know what? Screw that. Let's see. I just try to prop this up right here. So it doesn't sound the greatest. Definitely not the worst wheel bearing I've seen. Looking at the quality of this right here, some pretty shoddy work. I don't know, looks like a Mako job to me. Alright, so I'm all done with this Impala, taking it out for a test drive, and it definitely sounds better. I didn't show you guys this, but the wheel bearing on the driver's side, when it came out like in pieces, and it definitely sounded worse than the one on the passenger side. So everything sounds good now. The brakes feel good. The only thing I have to do now is take it back to the garage and put the zip ties on the hubcaps. Changing a air filter on this Impala. I noticed something disconnected right here. Fuel pressure regulator. So let's just go ahead and put that back. I don't know why it was disconnected. Yeah. Ooh, we got another one. Look at the fluffiness. At least this one's blue. Anyways, it just got dropped off because a woman said there's a noise up front. I was expecting like a clunking noise, like when you go over a bump, maybe like stabilizer links or bushings or something. But listen to this thing. I'm doing like 2 miles per hour. Let's go faster. Wow, this sounds horrible. How does anyone drive like this? I mean, it's like, whoa, whoa. Alright, it instantly got worse. I don't know if it just like completely broke, whatever the heck's going on. I think it's like a drive shaft or something. Let's look underneath the car. Alright, so I can't see anything from just looking underneath the car. Wow. sounds like a bad support bearing for the drive shaft. Ooh, that sounds bad. And it's like, oh, I don't even want to drive the car, but I gotta take it back. Oh my goodness. I'm so glad I was recording. And how do you know, here's the thing with this owner is that she was supposed to bring me the car like 2 weeks ago, right? And she kept putting it off. She could never make her appointment, okay? And it's like, I hope you were not driving this car, because this is, wow. I'm doing like 1 mile per hour here, okay? Today's a hectic day. Working on this Taurus, doing the front brakes, getting pads and rotors. This is the car I was just driving right now with the, I don't know if it's a broken or damaged CV axle or drive shaft, one of the two. Then that tow truck out there just dropping off an Alero that is a no start. I think it's a no crank, no start. Just had another car leave here. Just hectic day. No one's showing up on time. You give people, you know, time windows, and no one ever shows up when they're supposed to, and then they all show up at the same exact time. It's freaking hectic. I'm on the right side of this Ford Taurus, and it looks like, dang, it's always hard to get one. Let's see. So hopefully you guys can see that or hear that. Inner tie rod is bad. Here goes the real reason why we're in here. You can see on the back side of the rotor, it was just starting to make contact right there. There's absolutely no more pad left on this, or no more friction material left on it. Alright, so we finally get to the Lincoln MKZ. Ooh, look at them 19s. Nah, they're only 17s. But she keeps them clean though. Look at this. What is this? What the heck? Where are you driving this thing? This poor car. Anyway, so you can see I got my floor jack and jack stand supporting the car. I checked this axle already, or CV shaft. Nothing wrong with it, just as I'm expecting. The noise does sound like it's coming from the front right side, but I think it's actually coming from right there, because I could see the drive shaft. So let's slide underneath the car to get a better look at this. Look at that. Well, there's your problem, lady. Got a Kia Sorento here. The owner took it to a shop because of noises up front and it's not handling right, and they told her she needs 2 lower control arms up front. This wheel moves a lot, and it is the lower ball joint, and that bushing back there for lower control arm is torn. Yeah, you could even see how it's affecting the tires. It's like pretty much bowed on the inside. Tires are like, have a lot of negative camber, and the struts also look like they're leaking. Alright, so let's go ahead and knock out these lower control arms. This thing needs brake pads pretty bad. Look at that. There's like no friction material left. Look on this side. Alright, so let's see if I could get the owner to change the brake pads. If not, she'll be back very soon for pads and rotors. The driver's side was like a walk in the park. Passenger side, not so much. The bolt that goes through a lower control arm right here. Sorry, my battery's low, so it's flashing. This nut was so tight it would not come off or anything, and it started to get to the point where it was rounded off, and it was done for. It wasn't going to come off. So the best thing I come up with is use my Dremel, cut a slot in it right up until the point where I was about to touch the threads, and then come in here with the chisel on the air hammer and pretty much crack the nut open, as you can see. And then once that cracks, just start hitting with the air hammer and it starts spinning off. That sucks, but at least we got the bolt out without doing too much damage. We could always replace the nut. It's not a big issue. And there goes that tool. The one you wish you never have to use, but when you do, it really saves your butt. I did nick the threads on the bolt a little bit with the air hammer, but I was able to fix them. Obviously change the nut, and I could thread it on with my finger all the way to the bottom. So the threads are nice and cleaned up. Look at that. Perfect. While taking this Kia for a test drive, sounds a little bit quieter because we don't have those loose bushings on the control arm and the loose ball joints. But she said she was gonna come back next week to get the brake pads done and then get the strut done. Alright, we got my cousin's Accord here. Came in for the weekend. We're actually going to do a complete timing job on this thing. So it's gonna get a timing belt, balancing shaft belt, water pump, camshaft seal, crankshaft seal if we could get to it, and all of these other belts replaced. And you can see we have some pretty good like oil leak going on down here. So coming in to do the maintenance on all of that stuff, as well as try to take care of this leak. It's gonna be a fun one. Alright, I'm gonna shoot another video piece there. I wasn't thinking too much on that. Alright, so this is where we're at. Look at this, guys. Look at the cracks on the timing belt. This thing is ready to go. Okay, now the valve cover itself had a sticker on it signifying that someone has changed the timing belt before, but there was no information on it. Like, there was a sticker there, but you couldn't read any of the dates or anything. So this is why I told my cousin, let's just go ahead and change it, because we don't know when the last time it was done. This car has, we don't know how many miles this car has because the speedometer is broken and it doesn't really record the miles. Plus the clutch has already been changed before, so that's way out the window. But we are estimating over 300,000. No, not 4. Because when I bought it off of the guy for Craigslist, he said the speedometer stopped working at like 240,000, and then he's had the car for much longer time after that. And then my cousin got it, and my cousin's had it for like 3 years. So this this thing's got to be close to 300,000 or over. We don't know when's the last time this belt was changed, and I told him let's just go in here and change it, because if this belt breaks, it's nothing but bad news. And looking at the condition of this belt, I'm really glad that we decided to come in here and take care of this. Here's an update. Obviously I already showed you guys the actual timing belt, and if we look at the belt for the balance shafts, and it's pretty much in the same exact condition. So we got some more taken apart. You can see the belt is pretty much off for the balance shafts. And the main timing belt, you still have to take this off. But yes, the main oil leak that we have here is coming from the camshaft, and you can see it puddling up down here. See that? So we do have a replacement. So it's time to first of all get this belt out of here, do some cleaning, and replace the seal. Alright, so we were able to pull out the seal for the camshaft, as well as the seal that goes right there. And I actually used this tool, which I've had it forever, but it's the first time I actually use it, and oh, did it work great. Here goes the 2 seals. They are like rock hard and not doing anything. That's why they were leaking. So we're gonna go ahead and replace them while we're in here. As you can see, the belt's finally out, and we're just gonna go ahead and clean everything. Once we're done cleaning, we'll put the new seals in, and then we'll remove that water pump. We are just about done for the night. We got our new seal inside of here. We got our new seal down there. New water pump is installed, and we cleaned as much as we can. You can see it's a massive difference. Here's the old water pump. But yeah, everything's looking real good. Happy how clean it looks. But that's it for tonight. It's past midnight, and we're gonna go ahead and call it a night, and we'll just come back and finish this tomorrow. It is now the next morning, and all I did was fill up the cooling system and I pressurized it. See if you get this focus, as you can see. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave this for a little while. I'm going to go have breakfast, and then later on I will come back and check on the water pump. We want to make sure that the water pump is not leaking before we start putting everything back together. As you can see, we got everything put back together. The belts are on it. Everything is nice and clean. Timing's dead on. We put the valve cover on and the ignition wires. We cranked it over by hand. Everything felt nice and smooth. So we went ahead and started it with none of this connected, and the engine ran for about 15 seconds. Everything sounded nice and smooth. So obviously pretty much done here. Just go ahead and put everything back together. Alright, so everything is put back together. As you can see, all new belts. Yeah, everything's looking real good. We've already started it, so we know it's gonna run just fine. We're gonna have to go ahead and bleed out the cooling system, but go ahead and start it. So the core has been running for about 30 minutes, all is well. The next issue he's having is we actually have no fan, no air blowing out the vents. So I checked power, and we got power coming out the wires, okay. So I'm like, okay, it has to be a bad blower motor. So I take the blower motor out, put power to it, and it turns on just fine. Alright, it's time to plug it back in and see what's going on. So I got the current clamp right here, and this is the reading that I got from it. You can see the dropouts. Yeah, so we have a bad blower motor. You know, this waveform should be consistent all the way across, and you can see all the dropouts, all the bad spots on the commutator. So that's it. It's a it. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? It. That's it for this one. I think that's all he wanted to get looked at while the car was here. We got the timing belt done, and we're gonna go ahead and get his heat working again. And I think that'll be it for this Accord, at least for this visit. I'm in a Ford. I don't know if there's an Expedition or an Explorer. It's kind of big, so I think it's an Expedition. But it's here. Oh, it says right there, Expedition. But it's here because owner is saying that the power steering is not acting right. He said the fluid's topped off. It was never low, but he topped it off anyway. And I can feel, I mean, it doesn't feel like the power steering is completely out. It just feels like it occasionally, you know, hits like a rough spot. And there's no noises or anything. Let's go underneath the hood and start looking at things. Alright, so looking at the power steering, the reservoir is max topped off. It's right at the max level. I want to look at the joint for the steering shaft, so let's get in here. You can see it looks pretty crusty, right? I've seen that cause problems on cars that have similar symptoms. I don't know if you can hear me down there, but I've seen that right there cause similar symptoms on other cars where it just kind of feels like it's kind of hard to steer in some places. So my first thing is I'm just gonna go ahead and spray that joint with some penetrating fluid and just kind of work it in there and see if it makes the steering wheel feel any better. Alright, so I'm out taking the truck for a test drive. I just sprayed the joints on the steering shaft because this truck actually has two joints. So I sprayed both of them very heavily with some rust penetrant and just kind of let it work its way in. And I noticed that the more I drive the truck, the easier and easier the power steering is getting. We got an issue with this window. Doesn't want to go up. That sucks. Anyway, yeah, so here's something I noticed initially. You know, when you make a turn, how your steering wheel is supposed to return to its normal forward position after you're done turning. Well, initially, if you let go of the steering wheel after you're done with the turn, it will not return. it'll stay whichever way you got it facing, and then you have to manually turn it back, which really sucks. But after spraying the joints with penetrating fluid and driving it around for about 10 minutes now, I'm at the point where once I'm done making a turn, it's actually starting to return the steering wheel back to its normal position. So there is improvement. I could tell that the penetrating fluid is making the truck drive better. And it's so easy for people to spend a ton of money on this type of problem, because I've seen people have this issue and the first thing they throw at their car is a power steering pump and then a rack and pinion, and it still doesn't fix the problem for something that's relatively simple. So all I had was rust penetrant, which is not ideal for this because it could actually like just wash off very quickly. So I want to use fluid film because it tends to like stick around. It's kind of like a gel type of thing, so it tends to stick around and really creep into the places where we need it to get into inside of those joints. So I'm actually going to stop at AutoZone and pick up a bottle of fluid film because I'm all out, and that's where we're at. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Alright, so I had to slide underneath the truck to get to that lower joint, and I gave it a heavy douching of fluid film, as well as this joint up here, as you can see. So let's go ahead and take it out for one final test drive. After the fluid film, and it keeps improving. Let's make a right turn here and let go of the steering wheel. And okay, I'm still not touching it. My hand's up here, and it returned like 95% of the way all by itself. So yeah, it's just one of those cases where you have to keep on driving it, and over time it's gonna get better. Honestly, it's the cheapest fix for a problem like this. Anything short of replacing that whole shaft, who's gonna do that, right? It's something, just spray it down, keep it lubricated, and it should be okay. We are in a Grand Caravan, and I looked at this car a few times for multiple different jobs, and I told them this truck needs all kinds of work done to it, and I didn't think they would ever get it done, but it's here. We have a ton of new parts for it, and it's gonna get all of that work done. Well, let's just say 90% of it. First of all, we're getting a blow motor. Where are we? You hear that? So we're gonna get a blower motor. We are getting 2 front strut assemblies. Listen to this. You hear the springs popping and the strut turrets are blown out. We are getting front brake pads, front stabilizer bar bushings, both front wheel bearings, both front lower control arms, and I think there's something else I just can't remember. But this thing sounds horrible driving right now. The alignment's way off. The car handles like crap. It sounds bad. It's just... So after putting all these parts on it, it's gonna make a world of difference. So let's go take it back to the garage and get started. About to get this wheel bearing off. You could see how bad the bearing is. Alright, so let's see if it'll come off pretty easy. And there goes the brake pads. It is coming off. I got everything taken apart, as you can see. Just got to be mindful of the sensor right there. So that's what's kind of stopping it from coming off. You got to take off the backing plate. So far so good. And now I could go ahead and just start taking apart everything else. It's actually nice when you're replacing almost everything, because just take it all off and that's it. We are making progress. I got the CV shaft right here resting on the ground. We got the knuckle attached to the tie rod still, and that's also resting on the ground. And now we are free to remove this lower control arm. Stabilizer links are still good. I just replaced them maybe a month ago. And then last but not least, we're gonna go ahead and remove the strut assembly, which it looks like we have to take this off. Alright, it's time to get this piece off, but the wipers really don't want to come off, so I don't have a tool specifically to remove wiper arms. So I'm using like this tie rod tool. It fits. Yeah, I need to get the correct tool for this, but let's see if it'll work. It should work. There you go. Alright, so I got the cover off, and look what I found. So I guess someone had the same exact idea as I did, to use a tie rod tool to try to remove the wiper arms. And they put the tool down right here and forgot all about it. One time I found some snap-on tools in an engine bay that someone forgot or lost or something, but that was a nice come up to find some snap-on tools. I'll see if I could get this free and working. Looks like a no name brand, just a cheap Chinese part similar to the one I have. But what I'm saying here is we got a free tool and we fixed a potential noise complaint. Because imagine this sitting right here, right? And as you're driving around hitting bumps, you know what I mean? So this right here killed two birds with one stone. I finally got that sway bar bushing on the right side changed, as you can see. Here was the old one. Honestly, the bolts were so rusted, they fought every single turn. It was a nightmare. I think I spent more time trying to change that one bushing than taking all of this apart. What a nightmare. Alright, so I'm just about done on this side. I have not tightened the two bolts for the lower control arm. I'm gonna wait till I get all of it done, and then I'll probably just drive the car up on the ramps so I can slide underneath the car and tighten them down. Same thing with the stabilizer link. I'm not gonna do it right now until I'm done with the other side, then I'll come and reattach that. But front brake pads are on, everything is tightened up. Once I get the vehicle back on the ground, I'll go ahead and torque down the axle nut, and that's it for this side. Besides that sway bar bushing, everything went pretty smooth. Here on the left side of the car, everything is going much smoother, and that's what I usually find. Whenever you're doing like two sides of a car, the second side always seems to go quicker. Yeah, so everything's going pretty smooth. You know, I just finished watching that Toy Story 4, and I'm just gonna say it really hit me in the feelings, you know what I mean? Whatever, man, I ain't no punk. I cry like a gangster. Alright, so I'm out taking the Grand Caravan for a test drive. The only thing I have not done yet is the blower motor. But as far as everything else, it's like a completely different van. No more noise from the loud wheel bearings. No more clunking noises when you go over bumps. The springs don't pop when you turn the steering wheel. Everything is nice and quiet. It's a completely different van, okay? You can see what codes we have here. Now I'm gonna go ahead and clear this check engine light only because of this one, the right wheel distance signal. Okay, and that's, you know, we got the new sensor and wheel bearing on, so I want to clear it because of that. Obviously the check engine light's gonna come back because of these other problems. So we got a cylinder 2 misfire, and let's go underneath the hood. I'm gonna show you something something funny. Alright, so you saw we had that code for cylinder 2 misfire. I don't think they've addressed that issue. One thing I noticed is, look at the ignition wires. Okay, they all look old except for one. Look at that. Who does that? Is it even possible to buy a wire by itself? I don't think so, unless you're making them yourself, but I doubt that. So did someone buy a kit and only replace the one that they had a misfire? Like, why? Just replace all of them. If you got an entire kit, just replace all of them. Makes no damn sense. Look at the dipstick. They get points for being creative, right? Uh-oh. Alright, so as you can see, I got all this put back together. I was just looking at this a little bit more closely. You could see how down there, completely saturated in oil and water. You know, so that's most likely where this misfire is coming from. They wanted me to fix this. What I would say is gonna get done here is to get new spark plugs, new wires, because these, you know, the other 5 are old still. So new wires, and this valve cover gasket. Well, the valve cover gaskets have to get replaced.
I didn't even notice this, but here was the box right here. New wires, and I could see one plug down there. So someone bought one spark plug and a set of wires just to replace that one. Just stupid. I could already tell we have a bad blower motor. Look at the rust coming out the bottom here. Alright, so I got my current clamp on the blower motor, and we got it pretty much like on a medium speed. And I'm sure you could hear the blower motor, how loud it is. About 80 amps. So let's go ahead and pull it out and put the new one in. Alright, so I got the new blower motor installed, and we are on the second speed. Let's see, okay, that's off, first, and medium, where I had it last time. And look at the current. Instead of 80 amps, we're at about 40 amps now on the new one. And obviously you could hear how quiet it is. It's nowhere near as loud as the old one. So that's it. Sounds good, looks good. And that was the last thing I had to do on this van. So we are officially done with this van.